In the cabin, spontaneous applause erupted when Sarah announced the safe landing. Even before knowing exactly who had flown the plane, the passengers expressed gratitude for the happy outcome. Emergency vehicles quickly surrounded the aircraft. Paramedics entered to attend to the pilots, while FBI and FAA agents began questioning passengers and crew about any suspicious activity before the pilots collapsed. When Emma finally left the cockpit, exhausted but relieved, she was greeted by enthusiastic applause from the passengers. Jason, the teenager who had questioned her competence, looked visibly embarrassed, unable to meet her gaze. "Is it her?" the passengers asked incredulously. "Was it that girl who landed the plane?" #Abby Peterson. Beyond the sky, 14-year-old Emma Roberts adjusted her navy blue Jurote uniform for the third time since boarding American Airlines Flight 257. Despite her young age, her disciplined, confident posture reflected years spent on military bases as the daughter of Captain Michael Roberts, a United States Air Force fighter pilot. "Would you like anything else to drink, miss?" the flight attendant asked with a kind smile. "No thank you," Emma replied, straightening her uniform tie again. It was her first time traveling alone, and the pride of wearing her Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps uniform mingled with the natural anxiety of her age. The Boeing 737-800 cruised smoothly toward Colorado Springs, where Emma's grandmother awaited her. The trip was a gift from her father after she had earned the highest score in her school's history on the flight simulator competition. Years of practice, patiently guided by her father, had turned Emma into a virtuoso pilot, at least in the virtual world. Emma opened her tablet and began reviewing technical flight manuals. Since childhood, she had breathed aviation. Her bedroom walls in San Diego were covered with posters of fighter jets and commercial aircraft. While other girls collected dolls, she amassed model airplanes. Her dream was as clear as a summer sky: to follow in her father's footsteps and become an Air Force pilot. A middle-aged gentleman sitting beside her watched her studies with interest. "You like airplanes, young lady?" he finally asked. Emma was usually reserved with strangers, but when it came to aviation, enthusiasm trumped shyness. "Yes, sir. I want to be a military pilot like my father." The man smiled, adjusting his glasses. "Thomas Wilson, former air traffic controller," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "It's rare to see someone your age reading Boeing technical manuals for fun." Emma shook his hand, suddenly more intrigued. "How long were you a controller, sir?" 25 years in Atlanta. "I retired last year. And judging by your posture and uniform, I am speaking with a Jurote cadet. Am I correct?" Emma's face lit up. Someone who truly understood the meaning of her uniform, not merely thinking it was a costume. "Yes, sir. Second year in the program. My father says it's a good start for those aiming at the Air Force Academy." For the next 30 minutes, Emma absorbed every word as Thomas recounted emergencies he had helped resolve, impressive maneuvers he had witnessed, and tips on air traffic procedures. It felt like a private lesson from someone who had genuinely been there. "You certainly know more about flight procedures than I did at twice your age," Thomas remarked. "Your father must be an excellent mentor." "He is," Emma smiled, recording the endless hours in the simulator with her father adjusting her controls, correcting her altitude, and teaching her about air currents and wind compensation. "He always says the sky doesn't care about your age or gender, only about your knowledge and judgment." Thomas nodded. "Your father is a wise man." The flight attendant passed again, offering snacks and drinks. The conversation paused while Emma accepted a soda. She gazed out the window, watching the carpet of clouds below them. It was so peaceful up here. Her father always said that no matter how chaotic the world seemed, above the clouds, there was clarity. "I need to use the restroom," Emma said, standing up. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Wilson." "The pleasure was mine, Cadet Roberts." As she walked down the narrow aisle toward the rear lavatory, Emma noticed two teenagers, about 3 years older than she was, whispering and pointing at her uniform. One of them laughed. Emma lifted her chin as her father had taught her. Never let them see your insecurity, and continued on her way. After using the restroom, Emma was returning to her seat when she noticed something odd. Two flight attendants were speaking in low voices near the galley, their expressions tense. Both unconscious. "We need a doctor immediately," whispered the older attendant. "And if there's no doctor on board, what do we do?" The younger one replied, visibly alarmed. Emma's curiosity was instantly piqued. Both unconscious. What were they talking about? "Excuse me," Emma interrupted politely. "Is everything all right?" The two women turned, surprised, forcing professional smiles. "Of course, dear. Everything is under control. Please return to your seat," replied the older attendant, whose badge read Sarah. But Emma had grown up with a military pilot. She recognized an emergency when she saw one. "It's something with the pilots, isn't it?" she asked directly. The attendants exchanged apprehensive looks. "Please return to your seat," Sarah repeated, now firmly. "My father is an Air Force pilot, and I know quite a bit about airplanes and flying. If something is wrong with the pilots, perhaps I can help," Emma insisted. A moment of tense silence hung between them. Finally, the younger attendant spoke. "Sarah, what if?" "No, Jennifer. She is just a child," Sarah cut in. Emma straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. "I am not just a child. I am a T cadet and the daughter of Captain Michael Roberts. I grew up in flight simulators and know the basic navigation and landing procedures for a 737. If both pilots are incapacitated, you need every bit of help you can get." Sarah pulled Emma aside, speaking in a low voice. Both pilots fainted almost simultaneously. "We suspect poisoning." "How long until destination?" Emma asked, her brain already calculating possibilities. "About an hour and a half," Sarah answered. "And the autopilot?" "It's engaged, but we will eventually need to descend and land." Emma took a deep breath. All the training, all the simulator hours, all the technical talks with her father. Everything pointed to this moment. "I need to speak with the control tower," Emma said with determination. "And we need to find Mr. Wilson in seat 14C. He's a retired air traffic controller." Sarah hesitated, visibly torn between following protocol and accepting help from a teenager. Meanwhile, Jennifer hurried back. "Sarah, the situation is worsening." The first officer stopped breathing for a few seconds. "We managed to revive him, but he's unstable." That sealed the decision. "Come with me," Sarah told Emma, guiding her toward the cockpit. As they passed down the aisle, Sarah quickly explained the situation to Thomas Wilson, who immediately stood to accompany them. When Emma entered the cockpit, the reality of the situation hit her full force. The captain and first officer were unconscious in their seats, pale, with oxygen masks. One flight attendant with nursing training monitored their vital signs. "I suspect some type of toxin," the attendant explained. "Weak pulse, dilated pupils, shallow breathing." After the pilots were removed from their seats, Emma approached the controls while Thomas studied the instruments. "The aircraft is on autopilot, following the programmed route," Thomas confirmed. "But we need to contact air traffic control immediately." One of the teenagers Emma had noticed earlier appeared at the cockpit door. "What is that girl doing here?" he asked disdainfully. "Is this some kind of joke?" "Return to your seat, please," Sarah instructed firmly. "My father is a lawyer and on the airline's board," the teen protested. His name, Emma would learn later, was Jason. "You cannot let a kid near the controls," Thomas intervened. "Young man, I am a former FAA air traffic controller, and we are in an emergency situation. Please go back to your seat and let us work." Jason looked at Emma with contempt. This is ridiculous. She's wearing a school uniform, for goodness sake. It's a Juroti uniform, Emma corrected calmly as she sat in the pilot's seat. And now please leave so we can focus on saving your life, along with everyone else's. Jason was reluctantly escorted back by Jennifer, but not before casting one last incredulous glance. Thomas put on the headset and contacted air traffic control. Control, this is American 257. We have an emergency, code 7700. Both pilots are incapacitated, possibly poisoned. I have experience as an air traffic controller, and we are with a qualified assistant. Thomas hesitated to mention Emma's age, fearing it would cause further alarm. The response came quickly. American 257, Roger. Maintain current altitude and heading. We are tracking your position and diverting traffic. Are there any pilots among the passengers? Negative, control. Our assistant has flight simulator training. A tense pause followed. Copy, 257. We will guide you step by step. We are coordinating with Denver for an emergency landing. Remain on autopilot for now. Emma carefully studied the instruments, identifying each control and indicator. They were familiar from the simulators, but now they were alive, real, connected to an aircraft carrying 142 souls. We can do this, she told Thomas, trying to convince both him and herself. Over the next 30 minutes, Emma and Thomas worked with air traffic control, preparing for the inevitable moment when they would deactivate the autopilot and take manual control for landing. In the cabin, Sarah had informed the passengers in a controlled manner, mentioning only that the pilots were unwell and that qualified personnel were in command. Most passengers remained calm, but Jason and a few others who had seen Emma enter the cockpit spread alarming rumors. "They're letting a girl fly the plane," Jason exclaimed to anyone who would listen. "This is insane. We're all going to die." Anxiety began spreading among passengers, so Sarah took action. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced over the PA system, "I would like to update you on our current situation. Our pilots required medical assistance, but we are fortunate to have a former FAA air traffic controller and the daughter of an Air Force fighter pilot assisting in the cockpit. Both are highly capable, and air traffic control is guiding us to a safe landing in Denver. Please remain calm and follow all crew instructions." In the cockpit, Emma could feel the responsibility on her shoulders. Her father always said fear was natural, but pilots turned fear into focus. American 257. This is Denver approach. A new voice came over the radio. "We are ready for your arrival. We will guide you through descent in 10 minutes. Confirm readiness." Thomas looked at Emma. "Are you ready?" Emma visualized every landing she had practiced in the simulator. Hundreds of them, some perfect, some disasters. She remembered her father's advice. "Don't aim for a perfect landing. Aim for a safe one." "I am ready," she replied, adjusting the seat to reach the pedals. Denver approach, 257, ready to begin descent. The next 20 minutes were the most intense of Emma's life. With constant guidance from Denver and Thomas's assistance, she began to reduce altitude, adjusting speed and heading. Lower the nose 2 degrees. Maintain speed at 280 knots. Prepare to extend flaps to stage 1. Emma followed each instruction with meticulous precision, her eyes constantly scanning the instruments. When the moment came to disengage the autopilot and take manual control, her hands trembled briefly. "You can do this," Thomas said calmly. "Breathe. Focus on the instruments." Emma disengaged the autopilot and felt control transfer to her hands. It was different from the simulator, heavier, more alive, more real. The aircraft responded to her commands, and she felt an immediate connection to the machine. American 257, you are aligned with runway 16 right. Continue descent. Speed good. Altitude good. Through the clouds, Denver's lights began to appear. The runway materialized in the distance. "Extend landing gear," Denver instructed. Emma moved the lever, feeling the resistance increase as the gear deployed. "Landing gear down and locked," Thomas reported. "Flaps full for landing," came the next instruction. As they approached the runway, the tension in the cockpit became almost tangible. Emma focused on the center line, constantly adjusting, compensating for a slight crosswind. 30 seconds to contact, Denver announced. Emma could hear her own heartbeat. The outside world vanished. Only she, the aircraft, and the approaching runway existed. Nose up slightly. Hold, hold. The Boeing touched down with a bump, bounced lightly, then settled firmly. Emma immediately deployed thrust reversers and applied the brakes gradually, feeling the massive machine slow under her command. "Speed good. Continue braking. You are doing an excellent job." 257. When the plane finally stopped safely on the runway, a momentary silence filled the cockpit before Thomas announced, "Denver, American 257 is fully stopped on the runway. Request immediate medical assistance for the pilots." "Roger, 257. Emergency services on the way." "Excellent work." Emma released the yoke, her hands suddenly trembling. She had done it. She had actually landed a Boeing 737 with 142 people on board. In the cabin, spontaneous applause erupted when Kate announced the safe landing. Even before knowing exactly who had flown the plane, the passengers expressed gratitude for the happy outcome. Emergency vehicles quickly surrounded the aircraft. Paramedics entered to attend to the pilots, while FBI and FAA agents began questioning passengers and crew about any suspicious activity before the pilots collapsed. When Abby finally left the cockpit, exhausted but relieved, she was greeted by enthusiastic applause from the passengers. Tyler, the teenager who had questioned her competence, looked visibly embarrassed, unable to meet her gaze. "Is it her?" the passengers asked incredulously. "Was it that girl who landed the plane?" The story of a 14-year-old cadet who landed a commercial jet after the pilots were incapacitated spread rapidly. Reporters were already crowding the terminal as passengers began disembarking. "How did you manage to stay calm?" a reporter asked, thrusting a microphone toward Abby. "I just followed my training," she answered simply. Among the crowd, Abby spotted a familiar figure. Her grandmother, Martha Peterson, who had been notified of the incident and had rushed to the airport. "Abby," Martha called, making her way through the reporters. When they embraced, Abby finally allowed herself to feel the emotional impact of what had happened. Silent tears ran down her cheeks as her grandmother held her tightly. "Your father is going to be so proud," Martha whispered. "So proud." An FAA official approached respectfully. "Miss Roberts, we need your formal statement for our report whenever you're ready." Emma nodded, wiping her tears. Jason, the teenager who had ridiculed Emma, approached hesitantly with his parents. "I wanted to apologize," he said, clearly uncomfortable. "I was a complete jerk. You saved our lives." Jason's father extended his hand. "My son learned a valuable lesson today about not judging people by appearance or age. Thank you for your extraordinary courage, young lady." Emma accepted the apology with a nod, but her attention was caught by new commotion at the terminal entrance. The doors opened, and a figure in Air Force uniform hurried in. "Dad!" Emma exclaimed, running toward him. Captain Michael Roberts, who had received the news during training and immediately secured an emergency flight, embraced his daughter tightly. "You did it, little pilot," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You really did it." Subsequent investigations revealed that the pilots had been poisoned with a neurotoxic substance placed in their water bottles. A suspect, a recently fired employee of the catering company serving the airline, was arrested days later. In the weeks that followed, Emma was honored by the FAA, the Air Force, and the White House. She received conditional acceptance to the Air Force Academy upon reaching the required age, along with invitations to advanced training programs. 6 months after the incident, at a special ceremony at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, Emma received the Air Force Civilian Courage Medal, the highest decoration for civilians. Today we honor not just an extraordinary act of bravery, General William Stevens said during the ceremony, but the power of preparation, determination, and the refusal to be limited by others' expectations. When it was her turn to speak, Emma looked out at the audience filled with service members, pilots, family, and the passengers of Flight 257, including Jason and his family. "Many people have asked whether I was afraid," she began. "The truth is, yes, I was very afraid. But my father always taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. We all face moments when others say we cannot do something, that we are too young, too inexperienced, or simply not qualified. In those moments, we have a choice: believe them or prove them wrong." She paused, looking directly at Jason, who nodded in silent acknowledgement. "I couldn't choose the emergency I faced, but I could choose how I responded to it. And that is a choice we all have, every day, in every situation." That night, sitting on her grandmother's porch in Colorado Springs, Emma and her father watched the stars. "Do you know what I learned from all this, Dad?" Emma asked softly. "What, dear?" "That sometimes we need to prove our worth to others, but the most important thing is never to doubt ourselves." Michael smiled, putting his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "That, Emma, is what separates great pilots from mere aircraft operators. And you are already a great pilot." Together, they watched silently as a plane crossed the starry sky, its lights blinking like a reminder of the day a young cadet faced her fears, and in doing so found her wings. Higher than doubt, stronger than fear. When the moment comes, I'll be right here. It's not about age, not about size, it's about the heart that takes you beyond the sky. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community, where we celebrate quiet strength, real struggles, and unexpected victories. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.